Oh, hi, what are you doing there? It's great to see you. Hey, I was just going through the proof of my 2018 diary. It's very exciting. Don't tell anybody. It's got lots of really cool stuff in it. Should be out soon. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. We normally like to shoot on location because it's a bit more fun, but it's pretty much like a 1 degree outside and about to rain and it's just completely Arctic. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. It doesn't get quite that cold here, but have a look at this weather. It's just crazy. So we're shooting in the studio. We've got lights. Who knew we had lights? Yeah, no, we've had lights. I've had lights for years being a photographer. As you know, a few months ago, I did the D810 and D820 comparison video. Well, completely irrelevant now, of course, because the D820 is the D850. So in this film, I'd like to talk about the differences between the D810 and the D850. It was 2014, the middle of 2014, that the D10 came out. Right now, the specs are kind of rumored, but kind of confirmed by a leak of a Chinese PowerPoint presentation. So we pretty much think we know what's going on, thanks very much to Nikon rumors. So let's start with the megapixels. If we're going to compare these two things, as I said in my previous video, which you should check out, the D810 was the king. It did so many things so well. It did megapixels well, it did high dynamic range well, and it also did super duper well medium to high ISO for a sensor that's that big. And even in 2017, 3 years later, it still holds its own. It's quite amazing. So it is the king. Long live the king. But of course, the D850 is now here. From the specifications that we're seeing, it looks amazing. So let's talk about megapixels. The D810 was 36. It's looking like the D850 will be at least 46 megapixels. I've even seen a rumor saying 75. I really hope it's not 75. Two reasons. First reason being the pixels will just be too small and we won't get good high ISO. And the second one being file sizes. Oh my goodness, file sizes will be ridiculous. So clearly, it's going to be better on a megapixel front. Number 2 on the important list, because it's not the second most important thing, it's number 2 on the important list, dynamic range. Love the dynamic range of the D810. Up near 15 stops. It's crazy. It's amazing for a camera of its age. It's megapixels. It's high ISO. I can't say this enough. So it is imperative that Nikon have managed to, at the very least, maintain that high dynamic range. Let's hope we get another stop or half a stop, because that would be amazing if it's almost touching on a dynamic range of almost 16 or something like that. I mean, that is medium format territory, and that is amazing. And of course, high ISO. Well, what we're seeing is a native high ISO of 64 to 25,000. That's fantastic. Who needs more than that? You can never really tell what that means at the high end until you actually start shooting with it. But as I've said before, you can realistically use 16, 32. If we get another whole stop on that and go 16, 32, 32, 64, that's crazy. That's just amazing. So they're the things for me where if the D850 is 46 megapixels, has another half or a full stop of dynamic range, and if we get another stop in ISO, this camera is going to be an absolute world killer. It's going to be insane. It's going to be amazing. So let's talk about all the other things which are also very important and make it significantly better than the D810. They're talking about it shooting 7 frames a second. That's fantastic. And then if you put a grip on it, it's 9 frames a second. So that's fast. It's going to have the same focusing system as the D5 and the D500. Now I'm super excited about this because if there's one complaint I have about the D810 is the focusing is good, but it's not amazing. And I do a lot of low light work. And it sounds like this thing works in low light and works really well. The other thing I'm really excited about is the very incremental increase in the focusing area within the frame. I use those edges of frame all the time, so that's a big deal to me that it's gotten a little bit bigger. Well, it's rumored to have gotten a little bit bigger, not confirmed yet. Some of the other really exciting things that are going to make the D850 so much better than the D810, even so the D810 is amazing and I love it, is Wi-Fi. Holy cow, I'm going to be so excited if I don't have to carry around a Wi-Fi dongle and worry about it. This is just the best thing in the world. So if that's the case and they can make it work, in a professional standard, because when I do client work, I love sending those pics to an iPad, nice 12-inch iPad, and then the client can go, love it. So Wi-Fi, amazing. Tilty, touchy screen, love that too, because sometimes I'm getting down low, got to get on the ground, get in the dirt, get in the dust. Sometimes I'm shooting in the city and it can be pretty ugly on the ground. It's going to be a nice advantage to not have to get on the ground sometimes when it's wet or cold or dirty. And also using the screen up high, that's always a bit of an advantage if you want to get a bit of a crowd shot and you didn't bring a ladder. How often do us photographers go, oh, I should have brought a ladder, and you didn't bring a ladder, like a little step ladder. It's not very practical to carry a ladder around, I must say, but I do often go, oh, I wish I had a ladder. Now you've got a ladder with a tilty screen, a whole 1 foot ladder, maybe 2 foot, depending on how long your arms are. I've been holding off for this camera so that I can go 4K. So this will be the start of my 4K journey. Very excited to have 4K, very excited to see its implementation. So again, a significant advantage over the D810 is 4K. The next other significant advantage, which again is really exciting for me and my client work when working with orchestras or working in churches or whatever else, is the silent shutter. Now, it would appear that the implementation means you have to use the back screen as opposed to the viewfinder. So that's a little bit of an ergonomic change, which is less than perfect, but I'm sure in an emergency when you need to fire off a few shots silently, it's going to be amazing. So I'm very excited about that silent shutter mode. Another little side crazy advantage, which I will probably never use, but again, it's quite an epic thing. The camera will shoot 30 frames per second, so it's faster than a film, which is 24 frames a second. 30 frames a second at 8 megapixels, just using the electronic shutter. So that's quite amazing that it can do that. Another thing that I will probably never use, but again is superior to the D810, is focus stacking. Now this is where you can take lots of little photos at incremental distances from the lens to get when you're doing macro photography mostly, to get absolutely everything in focus. And this thing will take up to 300 images, 300, and then we'll put them together in the camera. I know very little about focus stacking, so I'll be quite interested to have a play with that and see what it does. Finally, so look, there are a few other features. There's some of the highlights to me that clearly, 3 years down the road, clearly make the D850 a superior camera to the already astonishingly good D810, which I hear may stay on sale because it's that good at a lesser price. And it's a good segue into saying price. It looks like this camera is going to be significantly more expensive than the D810. So right now the D810 is about $3,500 in Australia. And based on the calculations from US dollars, it will be something like $5,000 plus. So at $5,000, it's an expensive camera, and it's certainly in the semi-pro and pro space at that sort of price point. So there's some of the tent-pole highlights of the now announced, but not formally announced, D850. It's rumoured it might come out in September or October, so it could be coming out as soon as next month. I even read one rumour that it's going to be formally announced today, even so it was just a soft launch back on the 100th anniversary of Nikon. It's a very, very exciting time for us Nikon photographers with all of our Nikon glass. This camera truly does sound like it is the shizzle. And if everything that we've talked about today is actually the case, wow, what a camera. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the D810, the D850, what you're doing in your world, whether you think you're going to get one, whether it's worth the cost. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Look forward to seeing you next time. See ya.